Welcome to the show, everyone. My guest today is Laurent Goldstein, or Laurent, I guess, is how he pronounces it. He's French, of course, but he lives in Canada, in Vancouver. And I met Laurent about a year and a half ago, I guess. And I think we actually ran into each other a couple of times over the last decade or so, just being in Vancouver and kind of in the marketing world and networking and that type of thing. But our paths crossed at a time when I was in my office in Kelowna, and all of a sudden this guy walked in, which was very odd because nobody comes to my office, right? It was just wasn't a place where I brought clients to, or even had any kind of resemblance of like, please walk in. But in walks this guy, and he just starts a very casual conversation. And obviously, he knew a little bit about me and had researched who I am and what I was up to and that type of thing. And he started just, talking to me and having a very casual conversation. And eventually it led to, hey, I think there's ways that we may be able to collaborate and work together. And at that time, this was like right before, COVID hits and the whole world shut down. And Laurent actually had an event going on at a city that was very close to where I live. And, we ended up, throughout all of these conversations, figuring out that like, hey, maybe I can be on stage there talking about business and marketing and sales and that type of thing. And anyways, it's really blossomed since then. He's been a client. I've been a client of his. Him and his production company, Citrus Pie Media, created this incredible storytelling video for me that really spoke about my journey to where I am today and my passion for serving and supporting the coaches, consultants, the experts of the world that have a message to share, that have a vision that's greater than just themselves and making money, but rather actually making a difference in the world and sharing their gifts. And the story really, went all the way back to me as a kid, having coaches, becoming a coach myself, the ups and the downs, the divorce that I went to, the shame that I felt through it, how it actually allowed me the opportunity to reflect within and really see the duality and the gift that is every single thing that has happened in my life. And then he made it come to life in a short, it was only like 4.5 or 5 minutes long, this video, this little docu-series or this little brand storytelling video. But man, was it impactful. It was something that when I shared it, I was incredibly proud to be able to share that story and know that it was going to serve other people that maybe are going through what I've been through, or they're in the middle of going through what I've been through. And I didn't do it from the perspective of like, and I have all the answers and I'm never going to go through anything like this again. It was really from a humbleness of like, and I know that everything then in life is going to happen for me, not to me, as a result of going through this personal development work and this journey together. So anyways, long story short is that, Laurent is a storyteller. He's a salesman. He is a business builder. He is a documentary creator. He's a filmmaker. He's actually just about to release or go into production on his own feature film for the very first time. And again, he spoke about this and some of the fears that are coming up. And, it was just such a really interesting and enlightening conversation and one that's needed nowadays because a lot of people and businesses right now are struggling. They're in a fear state. They're not sure how to navigate this new world that's crossing technology and human connection and just trying to come out on the other side as a better person, as a better business, creating positivity in this world. So that was some of the things we talked about. We're both up to some amazing big things right now. We're actually collaborating on some things that I cannot wait to bring into this space. Laurent's going to be a big part of that. Him and his partner Jen and their company. So anyways, in the meantime, I look forward to you meeting Laurent. Let's go ahead and give it a listen. All right, Laurent, welcome to the Trevor Turnbull Show. It's so great to talk with you.
It's really nice to be here with you, Trevor. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, of course. We've had numerous great conversations over the last year and a half or so that we've been connected. And I think we may have crossed paths before over the last 10 years. But of course, in the last year and a half or so, we've been working closely together. I've got to know you and of course, Jen as well. And just understanding what makes you tick and how you're wired and your background. And you have such a crazy diverse background that I wanted to introduce you to people in my network, number one. But I also wanted to dive deep. And I told you that I hadn't even expressed to you what ultimately I wanted to talk about on this interview. But really it's the whole idea of like how to take an idea and make it become a reality, whether it's in the sales spectrum, creating a film, creating a documentary, creating something out of nothing that maybe somebody else can't even see yet, but you can. This is a skill, and this is something that gets developed over time. And I just can't wait to talk through this with you, because obviously you've got a lot of years of experience in doing this, and we've had conversations around this topic before. So that's a little context about where I think this interview will ultimately end up going. And just really quickly before I get you to just give a little intro to yourself, part of the reason why I created this podcast, and I've expressed this to you before, is just to have these insightful, honest, vulnerable conversations about the messy journey that is our lives, and all these paths that take us down these paths that we think it's going to go one way and then it ends up going another way, and we think it's a bad thing, but it's actually a blessing. And, Brené Brown has a quote that says, "One day you will tell your story of how you overcame what you went through, and it will be somebody else's survival guide." So that's the piece to kind of ground us in the conversation here. And with that, I'd love for you to introduce yourself to everybody, just the elevator pitch of who is Laurent.
Well, thank you, Trevor. My name is Laurent Goldstein, and I was born in France. I came to Canada about 30 years ago, and I've been following an entrepreneurship journey, basically coming into Canada. About 11 years ago, I started with Jennifer, a video and film production company called Citrus Pie Media Group, that has also now a new component, which is Bizwell Studio. And so I am passionate about sales, starting a business, and making films. So these are really, and I have a background in music as well. But it was very interesting what you said earlier, because I really, in a way, live by John Lennon's saying, which goes like, "Life is what happens when we are busy making other plans." Because we never know what life has in store for us. And I also think a lot about the butterfly effect, how
Yes.
things that sometimes appear to be insignificant can have a major repercussion in our lives and also in the lives of others. These are two things that really I've been reflecting upon and that are very important for me. So I think paying attention to the little signs that, for the sake of using another word, I'm going to say the universe is sending us every day, is very important. I think it's important to develop a finely attuned sense of things, people we meet, and try to go below the surface. Try to understand, maybe that's interesting. Let's think about that. Let's look into that, I'm a huge fan of the film with Jim Carrey, the Yes Man.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen it,
I have,
but that's kind of the attitude. That character is kind of forced to say yes to everything that happens to him, and it takes him on a journey. Of course, he falls in love, and it's a good journey, but it doesn't go without challenges, and that's kind of the story of my life.
For sure. Yeah, well, it's a little tough to read. I'm still working on the lighting in here, but it says, "Be grateful, be curious, be brave." Actually, I think it's curious and brave right here. But the curious one is exactly what you're kind of alluding to as well, right? As well as gratefulness, right? Of like just being grateful for every little butterfly effect that has happened along the way. Because a lot of times we don't even realize it until decades later, even in some cases, right? Like when I think about filmmaking and video production for that matter, like there's so much storytelling tied into it, right? And this is a skill that I've been, curious about myself for the last 10 years and not really spending a lot of time on it, like focused in the last 8 years, but just in the last couple. And of course, you coming into my world had an influence on that. And that's something that I find fascinating, that when you start to realize that like everything is tied to a story, including a person's decision to whether they're going to buy something or not, right? Like sales is all tied up in storytelling as well, right? At least really, really authentic, true selling is. And I'm just curious to know too, like, where did this spark happen for you back over the years? Like what made you realize that like this being in having a video production company and a company that helps market other businesses and doing films and stuff. When did it hit you?
Serendipity, I guess, Trevor.
Yeah.
Before Citrus Pie Media Group, I owned a successful software-based company for about 12 years. We developed an internal communication system software program for pretty much any kind of healthcare providers. But when I bought the company back in 1999, I decided to focus exclusively on the chiropractic profession. So we acquired about 3,000, clients all over the world. Our software was selling in the $20,000 US range. We were doing very well. We organized seminars for chiropractors. So we had an element of education, inspiration. I had a podcast for 10 years called The Path to Excellence, where I was bringing leaders to inspire chiropractors who were my clients. So I kind of tried to give chiropractors a whole kind of comprehensive package where they would get the software, the hardware, the content. I had a team of graphic designers, writers, software developers at the office, but also give them the necessary tools through the podcast and the educational seminars so that they would always be inspired to better serve their community, to be better at running their practice, and so on and so forth. And we did very well. I mean, when I bought the company, it was doing about 1.5 million a year. And when I closed it down, we were at 7 million plus. And I had 40 employees, 25 salespeople. The problem is that 2009, the recession hit, and 85% of our business was in the US. And basically, the banks closed the credit tabs. 90% of our sales were done through leasing. So the leasing companies who loved working with us, I mean, they had funded hundreds of our deals, suddenly said, sorry, unless your client has a credit rating of, 820 something that very few people have, we can take it. So we literally, when we closed the business, we were sitting on, I think it was $2.7 million of business that was written. We had the purchase orders, we had everything, but we could not put them through leasing. So I had to close the business down. And for about 3 or 4 months, I was wondering, what am I going to do? I mean, that company was going to be my retirement. And one day I walked into the house, Jennifer was in the kitchen, and I was like on fire. I had that vision of creating a video production company. So the idea that I had was to help businesses market themselves by telling their story and market themselves online. I mean, we had done some video production within my software company. We used to film our seminars. We used to do interviews of chiropractors and things like that. And I decided to start a video production company. And the irony in that, Trevor, which is one thing I'd like to tell your audience, is that it is never too late. It's never too late. It's never too late. Why am I saying that? When I was a kid, I wanted to be a movie director. I was passionate about cinema, and I wanted to make films. I wanted to direct movies. And it was a passion that I was 3-4 times a week. I would go into movie theaters to watch movies. Even as a young teenager, I used to critique the movies in the French class once a week. I had 10 minutes before a 2-hour class to actually review the films I had seen. So it's a real passion. I wrote my first screenplay when I was 20 years old, and I was going to shoot it in 16 millimeter at the time. But I could not raise the financing. And then my life took a complete different path. Like I took the path of business and sales, which was not my initial calling, really. And when I came to Canada, that's what it became. I became a business entrepreneur. I opened 3 or 4 companies, and successfully every time. But somehow something was missing, I guess it was my creative spark that had not been ignited. And when I started Citrus Pie, we started producing hundreds of videos, like marketing videos. But about 3 or 4 years into doing that, one day, again, the butterfly effect. I was at one of my clients, an RV dealer, in Airdrie, Alberta. And the owner was a client of mine, wanted to introduce me to his friend. His name is Frank Moffat. And Frank had written a book called Your Second 50. And Frank was thinking about getting a documentary, a feature-length film from that book. And here I show up. And talking about making things happen, like you talked about initially, that day we spent 2 hours together at the RV dealership talking, and we really got along very well. We decided to go for dinner at the Cactus Club by the airport in Calgary that day. And literally we sat down, we each had a napkin, and we started writing names of celebrities we knew, influencers we knew. In my case, I knew a lot of influencers, celebrities, because of the chiropractic seminars, so the people like Bruce Lipton, John DeMartini, Guy Rickman, there's so many Jack Canfield, there's so many I could name. So I started writing them down, saying, I can call them. They could be part of that movie. And he did the same thing. He had a lot of background in the music industry because his kids are famous musicians. The band, the Moffats from Calgary, they became a worldwide sensation. They did the music for the film, actually. So what happened then is we started working on the film right away, and we got it done. It happened. The problem I see is too many people have great ideas, but they kind of lack the drive, or there's something lacking that prevent them to make it happen. So I live by the saying, some people make things happen, some people watch things happen, some people say, gee, what happened?
That's so true, isn't it?
I like to be in the first category.
Yeah.
So, but the irony is, I was saying it's never too late. So here I am in my 60s, and I just finished, we are basically now pitching our first feature-length movie, fiction, with a very, amazing cast. And, I wrote a screenplay with my brother for the movie called With an Open Heart. And after doing 4 feature-length documentary, now hopefully the first fiction film is going to happen. So it's never too late.
Yeah, it is never too late for sure. And that's an interesting analogy that you use there too, because I think, again, this is where it always ties back to sales and selling and enrollments or whatever, right? But ultimately, you've been able to take ideas and turn them into reality, but then also have moments in life that were unplanned, the whole, financial crisis in 2009. And then now here we are, 10 plus years later, and all of a sudden this COVID thing happens and completely flips the world upside down again. And I think it's so easy for some people to sit back and just watch things happen, or really not really take control of their life, because they're looking for the defined guardrails of like, well, this is how you do this thing. And the truth is, I think this is one of the amazing things about you, and the thing that I admire about you, and why I enjoyed spending more time with you, is that like, we come up with crazy ideas all the time, and then we're like, how do we make that happen? And then you just start reverse engineering it, and knowing that, like, quite frankly, probably anywhere from 20 to 80%, there's no manual for it. Like, you're literally creating it as you go, whether that means enrolling the financiers into it, whether it be banks or, funding programs through the government or other individuals that may be involved in projects, or even just enrolling the talent. Like, I know recently we were just talking about your timelines for your film, and the fact that you have somebody in mind as your lead actor, and therefore you need to kind of reverse engineer, like, well, that's 10 months from now, so I need to, within the next 2 months, put an offer in front of that person so that they'll block off 2 weeks of their time in June. And that's something that I think not many people believe in themselves enough that they can actually make it happen. Did you have any mentors along the way that helped instill some of those beliefs in you too? That like, okay, yeah, there's no manual for it, but like, why can't we create it? What about unlimited possibilities? Is there anybody that comes to mind for you?
Yes. Well, first, I'd like to say that, the tallest skyscrapers are built in a way that in case of an earthquake or in case of a high winds, they flex they move, they flex. So I think the key in life is flexibility. Number one. Number two, we need to keep moving. We can't stay still. That's one of the secrets in life. Life is motion. So as far as mentors, my father, number one, for sure. My dad, because my dad had to keep moving through extreme adversity. My mom spent a good part of her life, at least the last 20 years, but even before that, of her life in bed. She was extremely depressed. She took antidepressant all her life. And when she lost her son, my brother, she could not cope with the loss. So, but my dad had to keep going. I mean, he could not just spend the days in bed. He had to keep going. And he was in sales. He was brilliant in sales. So he taught me, I mean, I saw him, every day, having his shower, drinking his coffee. Every day is a new day, and then taking his briefcase and looking at every day as a day full of possibilities and going on the road, not knowing. And at the time, we didn't have cell phones. So, he was going sometimes for 2-3 days, not knowing if my mom would be okay because she did several suicide attempts. So I learned a lot from that. He was a fighter. And where did he learn that from? Well, my dad was Jewish. And during the war, he had to be in hiding for 4 years as a little kid. He was running from one town to the next, always hiding from the Germans. So, of course, that also taught him a lesson, So I think, he is my first mentor that comes to mind. My brother, who passed away, was also an amazing mentor for me. What I learned from him is the lessons of tolerance, compassion, and never speaking bad about other people. He was an amazing guy. He was an artist. He was the kind of guy who, one time he took his guitar, his backpack, and he left our little town in Brittany on the west coast of France, and we went hiking and hitchhiking throughout Europe,
Yep.
and came back months later, playing guitar, sleeping in his tent beside the road. He was only 22. So I have learned a lot from them. And of course, I have met amazing people along the way. So many people have inspired me in the chiropractic professions, mentors of chiropractors who run their own, practice management groups and thinking tanks. I have attended hundreds of these, seminars, and that has inspired me. A lot of them have inspired me. There's no questions about that. And then some filmmakers and musicians have inspired me as well. From a business standpoint, I have read the books on selling. I have, the Napoleon Hill and so on. But I would say I have learned mostly it's been the school of hard knocks on the road, on the field. Yeah, I would say that's the main thing. You're alluding to adversity. You were talking about the crisis we went through, the financial crisis back in 2009, 2010, and then the COVID crisis. I think the fact that I had to learn to adapt when I came to North America. My English I had no English. I mean, I took Latin and German after French, of course, and English was like by then. I had my motorcycle. I was a rebel. I was always sitting in the back of the classroom at school. So where did I learn my English? I learned my English from the music, the Doors, the Who, the Jefferson Airplane. I mean, this is where I learned the English. But I remember driving from Montreal to Calgary when I first came here. I was given the responsibility of opening an office, a sales office for 1 hour photo processing company from France in Calgary, and I didn't speak the language. I remember driving, and every time I had to stop at a gas station because at the time there was not self-serve; it was usually full serve.
Yep.
I had to rehearse how to ask to get the tank filled up, and it was anxiety. It was that bad. And I had to come to Calgary, and I had to hire staff, like a secretary, technicians for the equipment we were selling, administrator, accountant. And I had to hire salespeople, of course, not just hire salespeople, but teach them how to sell this product that was really concept selling, very high ticket. I'm talking true high ticket. I'm not talking the high ticket of $5,000 or $3,000. I'm talking $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 back in the 80s. So it was a challenge. So I guess I learned the hard way, and sometimes I fell flat on my face. I made some attempt. One time I was in Germany, and I thought, okay, well, if I can sell in France, I can sell in North America. I'm sure I can sell in Germany. It was a disaster.
Well, you just never know, right? But you took the leap into it at least, and now you know. And maybe that doesn't even have to be the story. Who knows? Maybe at some point in your life you can still go back and sell in Germany. But the thing that I think jumps out to me in everything that you just said there is these, refer to them as like soft skills, like things that we pick up from mentors, School of Hard Knocks, that type of thing. That's one of the things that I think really defines who you are, at least from my perspective, and how you've either taught and trained other salespeople or just, sold yourself, like walking into a winery, for example. Like I'm out in Kelowna here, and we've met up a handful of times up here. And I know you've told me numerous stories where, part of your trips when you come up to do some filming projects is to connect with people. And then every once in a while you drive by a winery and go, I feel like I need to just pop my head in there, and you just pop your head in and you talk to somebody. And before you know it, you're talking to the owner. And the next thing you know, you're doing a video project with them to help tell their story, to help them differentiate from the 400 other wineries that are in the area. Like you're all selling wine. Why are people buying your wine versus the next guy's wine, right? And tolerance, compassion, empathy, all of these things I think are really, really not talked about enough when it comes to effective sales skills, because we always want to put sales in a bucket of like selling, like trying to convince somebody of something, as opposed to just getting to understand what makes a person tick and what they're wanting as a desired outcome, and hearing what they're saying and knowing that there's probably a different truth, but they just don't see it yet. Does that land for you as far as like how your sales approach has been over the years and some of the stuff you've taught other people?
Well, absolutely. But you're actually touching on, several important points. I mean, one of them is cold calling. I mean, do you want me to talk about that for a second?
Yeah, sure.
Because I love cold calling.
Yeah.
I've written a sales manual on it called the Broken Record. But anyway, I love it. I think most people hate it. They're afraid of it. They think it's inefficient as a method of making sales. I love it. First of all, I've learned, one of my mentors in business, his name is Jerry Levasseur. I actually did a feature film on him. Very successful businessman from Alberta who built an empire in the hospitality industry. And what he said during one of the interviews I did for the movie, he said, when people take a right, I usually take a left. So most people hate cold calling, and so that gives me even more incentive to teach people, hey, you should really look into it, because most people don't do it. So that's the point. But the way I look at it as I love meeting new people all the time. So everything in life, in my opinion, has to do with the attitude that we have towards what happens to us. So my attitude is I'm open. Like if I see a winery, it looks good, I'm going to go in. I'm going to introduce myself. And before I go in, I'm going to look at it and say, what do I really like about that place? Is there any differentiating factor? Let's look at the website. Let's look at their Facebook page. The building, interesting. Wow, this door is massive. They must have put a lot of thoughts in getting this door built, that main entrance door. So I try to absorb the space, and I try to put myself in their shoes. Why did they do it like that? Why? It must have been a process. So when I go in, I start talking to them. they are interested in hearing me because they appreciate that I have noticed things that I know they would have put a lot of efforts into. So I would do that before I introduce myself, before I talk about videos. So there is already a connection. It's not a fake connection. It has to come from a real place. If it's only a fake, because we hear a lot, I mean, sales trainers talk a lot about, oh, you need to ask questions, you need to listen. Well, sure, but what kind of questions? It's more important, in my opinion, to discuss how you ask the question, how you listen, rather than saying, well, it's important to listen, it's important to ask questions. That's a given. But it's the how that is important.
Right. Yeah. Like a genuine curiosity.
Absolutely.
Right? So
Absolutely.
maybe making assumptions, but opening it up for the feedback loop, right? Of somebody to actually latch onto something, knowing that you notice that door, and it's likely that that person probably put 20 hours of thinking into that door and sourcing that door and figuring out how it would look on photos and people's experience walking through that door, right?
And finding the builder and the carpenter that could do it. But there is a reason why they wanted it that way. You see, so this is what I'm interested in. And, actually, I met you through a cold call. I just came in. I walked in, remember?
It wasn't even a cold call, exactly. It was a cold walk in the door.
But that's, really cold calling for me is primarily that.
Yeah.
And secondary phone calling.
Picking up the phone, right? Yeah.
I prefer the walking in. I call it a cold call. It's a cold call, but walking in.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because you really get a good sense of the space and the people who run the business right away. And also, it's harder for the people who run the business to get rid of you when you're actually there in person. And also, if an objection comes up, you have elements that you see in the space, in the environment, that you can grab on to actually keep talking or go into. For example, you might see a poster on the wall which is talking about a charity that they just give money to, or whatever it is, a diploma on the wall if you're in a healthcare clinic and you happen to know that school, and you can. So it gives you elements of conversation. You can create a rapport. On the phone, it's harder because it's easier for people to get rid of you. You just hang up. No, sorry, not interested. Bye.
Yeah.
So when people call me like that, I get, of course, like everybody else, I get a lot of calls which are unsolicited, these, marketing calls. And I always try to be nice. I'm not, I tell them, look, I'm not a good prospect for you, but good luck with your next call. That to me is important, the way we talk to people,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think this is where our worlds ended up colliding in a perfect way too, was that, I've come from a world that existed prior to social media where I've told you this story, my first sales manager threw a Yellow Pages phone book on my desk and said, best of luck, kid, right? And I had to just drive around town and look for phone numbers on signs and go to networking events. And then I really leaned into the digital world and spent the better part of the last 15 years just kind of consuming this and figuring out how to take the offline online and then recreate that authenticity. And I think this is an important piece. I'm glad that we kind of landed here too, because Bizwell, what I do in my work, the work that we've done together is so incredibly important right now. And it's a real challenge for businesses nowadays. And it doesn't matter if you're selling business to business, business to consumer, whatever, your piece of advice right there of I prefer walking into a building and actually, seeing the environment and that type of thing. It became harder to do that, right? And then naturally the world locks down and all of these things. So there's a lot of pieces to that, Laurent, and I definitely want us to kind of weave in and out of it. But part of it is this, how do you do that in a truly global world now where you have access to this technology, but there's still this disconnect between people thinking a tool's going to enroll people into whatever they're selling versus actually human connection. And then the other side of it is, and I'll just go back to referencing what you said, that your brother said to you, is this idea of tolerance and compassion, knowing that and we've had lots of conversations about this with regards to, COVID, politics, all that kind of stuff. And the fact that like deep down there's an annoyance to it. There's a fear to it. There's all of these emotions that people are going through right now. And what it ultimately comes back to, and again, this is all tied again, I think, into like what Bizwell is ultimately mission to create, is like people's fear around just moving forward and finding new ways to reinvent themselves and their business and tell their story, for the fear of insulting somebody or for the fear of doing the wrong thing or whatever it is. It's usually a internal conversation of self-worth that's the problem, you know? But anyways, I'm kind of going off on a bunch of different stuff. I'll let you pick up on what I'm putting down there. Anything come to mind?
Yeah, many things.
Yeah.
Many things. When you started talking, I had something. What did you start with? What was the first point you made? Do you remember?
Geez, I was talking about
the walking call.
Yeah.
Talked about that.
Yeah, and just you coming into the office and where our worlds collided was me being so enveloped, you know, 10, 15 years into the digital space.
And you were talking about the tools. So this is what comes to mind, Trevor. A good mechanic. I'm a boater, so I've met many mechanics along the way. When they come with their toolkit, in their toolkit, you don't find a screwdriver and a hammer. You find a whole bunch of things. Why? Because they never know the situation they're going to be faced with, right? So when it comes to selling, I think, you know, a screwdriver or a hammer is not going to answer all the situations. You need to have everything at your disposal. You need to use all the tools, because some of these tools will work better for some situations. Other tools will be better for other situations. So, you know, whenever I work locally, if I am in a small town, let's say I'm spending a couple of days in a small town, let's say Kamloops as an example. It's a small community and they are very tight community based. I want to meet the people there, you know? So I'm not going to use the tools of from the digital space for that. I can just casually walk in, say hi, and, you know, get to know them. And I've done that very successfully again and again and again. But of course, if I'm trying to reach out to businesses that are, you know, far away,
right,
then of course we need to use the other tools. So it depends on the market. It depends on who you're talking to, where you're geographically located. But I think we need to embrace all these tools. We need to embrace them and learn how to master them as much as possible. So even for business owners, especially in the wellness space, I mean, we're talking about Bizwell. Bizwell it's where basically my experience in health and wellness through the chiropractic space that I spent over 20 years in, and my experience as a business owner, this is where they meet. And that's why it's called Bizwell. It's about bringing wellness into Bizwell, how to perform in business better and keep your balance within all of that. That's really what is important. So it's using all the tools that are available and not discard any of them, and become an expert at as many tools as possible.
Right. Yeah, knowing that in today's world too, it is a matter of having to have these multiple tools in the tool set, right? What used to work, and I think both of us are very aligned in this. And that's what we're speaking to, is like what used to work still works, which is just human connection, have compassion, have empathy, be able to hear what people are saying, see the gap in the problem, fill the gap, sell the thing. Everybody wins, right? Win-win scenarios. And then you throw in, and you know, I speak about this all the time in what I do and the partnership and the company that I'm a partner in, where we refer to this toolkit now for businesses as like 400 to /4,000 possibilities, right? There's email marketing and there's videos and there's phone calls and there's social and everything in between. And it creates massive overwhelm, right? And then overwhelm leads to stress, and stress just permeates through a person's personal life. And again, this is where it's just this snowball effect that, quite frankly, is an epidemic in itself. right? It's something that's causing undue, unnecessary stress and anxiety inside of people, especially the entrepreneurs of the world that just don't know how to navigate this space. Not only what tools do they need in the toolkit, knowing that if you're carrying the toolkit around, like physically, you can only fit so many tools in that toolkit too before you need to find partners that can come in and fill the gap on stuff. And, it just becomes a very overwhelming thing, I think. And we've seen it accelerate in the last 18 months. So maybe to pick up on that side of it too. And I don't want us to go too far down a rabbit hole on this, but like, how have you found yourself even in the last 18 months with COVID and the lockdowns and all of that kind of stuff in being a tolerant and a compassionate person as it relates to business and even just interactions with other human beings at a general level, right?
Okay, to go back to the tools, you're right. You have, as far as people need to see what works best for them, but they should not discard anything right off the bat. So I think they need to become expert at a few methods and then use them. Just don't use just one or two. Use an assortment, 3, 4, 5 things, whatever it is. During that situation for a year and a half, I guess, like most of us, we spent more time online. We spent more time. I've been doing more writing. I've been doing more, podcasts and things like that, interviews. I've been reaching people more on the phone. I've been contacting my past clients more. I've been doing my newsletter more because, let's not forget, it is 10 times harder to find a new client than it is to get an existing client to reorder from you. That's kind of a golden rule in business. So that COVID time allowed us to go back and spend more time going back to our existing client base and try to give them more. So, this is, you need to adapt. But I still have been able to make cold calls, even physical cold calls. You come in with a mask, you see I ask, mask on, mask off, and you go with the feeling of what people tell you, people who run the business, and you adapt to it. But I've still been successful at acquiring new accounts that way as well during that time. So I would say it's all about adapting and keep being passionate for what you do. You need to be driven by what you do and love it. I mean, Bob Proctor in our film, Your Second 50, at some point he says, if you love what you do, you're not working one day in your life.
Yeah, which comes back to purpose and vision and everything else, right? So, and a lot of times I think that really lands for me too, because I think a lot of people that end up starting their own business and having it be successful at a certain level, whether it be financially or amount of employees that they've built up and stuff, get so attached to what it is that they're maybe unadaptable to what it could be. And then therefore they just become obsolete, like they just don't evolve over time. And just in personal development, if we don't evolve, if we're not evolving, we're dying. Right?
Well, I think, Trevor, you're actually touching on a good point here. I think COVID has given an opportunity for people who have seized that opportunity to really reflect on their business and to look at their business from the outside in and to really reflect on what their business means to them. One of my mentors is actually, his name is Christian Vander. He's a fabulous musician, the founder of the band Magma, who I made a movie on. And he said many times before, whatever you do, you have to do it 100% with passion, and make it as beautiful as you can. You could be somebody who is, sweeping the streets, but you could do it, you're making a difference. You're making a difference, whether you like it or you don't see it or not. So I was thinking, well, what does it mean to be, for example, if I owned a dry cleaning business, would I be in the business of selling, of cleaning people's clothes? Because that's a limiting belief. That doesn't get you excited in the morning. Or am I in the business of helping people really feel 100% the best they can be? Because maybe this coat they're going to put on, that suit, that shirt, is going to play a role in how confident they are in their next big meeting. Or maybe it's they are meeting their their love, their love
Right.
partner, or
Yeah,
something,
yeah.
whoever it is. So if I was a dry cleaner, if you were a dry cleaner, I was talking to you, I would tell you, Trevor, are you really in the business of cleaning clothes, or are you in the business of helping people feel better about themselves and being part of their journey? And that can come across in the way you greet them, the way you talk to them. That will grow your business, Trevor, when you think about it. So when you look at your business that way and you take the time to do that and you explore it through the COVID time that we've had, then you can think about new directions you can take your business in.
I do.
You can expand the business if you look at it from a different perspective.
Yeah, the thing that comes to mind, I don't know if I've ever shared this with you before, but I have a client who's over in Europe. He lives in Spain now, or in the Netherlands, I believe. He's from Spain. But he had a hand in the MasterCard priceless campaigns when they came out like 25 years ago. I forget when that was. It was like the early 90s or something, right? It's like, well, what can you do with a MasterCard? Well, you can buy stuff anywhere in the world, right? There's all of these like benefit statements, right? Yeah. But then they created this campaign that was just literally like a dad buying baseball tickets and then hot dogs at the game and ice cream and, time spent with my son that I'll never be able to that will be a lifetime of memories. Priceless. That's it.
I think shift the perception.
Yeah. And I think this is possible for all people and businesses out there. And a lot of times I think what stops them is thinking like, well, I don't know how to create that kind of emotional connection. So a limiting belief of like, they can't do it, or just not having met the right person or the right people or the right businesses that can help do that with them, like pull the story out. And I could speak about this from my own personal perspective too, because for the better part of 12 years, my story was writing itself, but I didn't have, I always use the story of like, well, I'm just a humble guy from Saskatchewan. I don't tell my story. I don't want to brag, and I don't want to seem like I was incompetent at that point in my life. And then you meet people that go, no. Like, can't you see that this actually was the ripple effect that created this? And that if you were to tell that story, it might unlock something for somebody else. And I was like, oh, yeah, this is a gift. And it's something that every business and every person should tap into. They really should. It's your differentiator in today's world that is so busy, where everybody seemingly is selling credit cards or
exactly. And that becomes a differentiator. And again, that becomes a story to tell. Mm-hmm. What is your story to tell? Whether you're a dry cleaner, to use that example, or you own a restaurant or a winery, you probably have a story to tell. Make it unique.
Absolutely. Excellent. So, Laurent, there's a whole bunch of other topics that we will talk about at some point in the future, because part of my theme of my podcast is that I bring my guests back too, because beliefs change, perspective changes. We end up talking about things that unlock certain things, and then we can revisit it, So I definitely want to do that. But I do have one final set of questions if you got time here to run through. Cool. So I call it the one thing lightning round. Doesn't need to be like one-word answers. You can take your time to answer it, but they all kind of revolve around the theme of one thing. Ready to roll?
Ready.
Okay. So you kind of already alluded to this one, but I'll ask it again just in case something else comes up or if it's the same answer. But who is one person or mentor that has been the most influential in your life all time? So like going right back to childhood.
My father.
Yeah, and you articulated kind of why that was. Hey,
no questions.
We'll skip past that one then, because like I say, I kind of asked you that one already. But let me ask you this then too. Who is one person / mentor that you would feel is the most influential in your life right now? So like in your present moment.
Yes, I have one.
Perfect.
Clint Eastwood. Bar none. 91 years old, just released his latest film. Do you think he's moving along in life with limiting beliefs around aging or what is possible? No, he doesn't care. He still does what he's always loved to do. So I would say Clint Eastwood.
That's a great one. Okay, next question. What is one philanthropic cause that means the most to you and why? If you can narrow it down to one.
The vegan, because I'm vegan. I've been vegan for about 5 years now, almost. So it ties together with compassion and tolerance. I think that is the one cause that is closest to my heart. I can't understand the disconnect between searching for peace in the world as far as humanity moving forward, and still acting with so much cruelty towards our brothers and sisters who are just looking different than we are, but they're still animals. So that's the one cause.
Perfect. What is one thing you are most grateful for right now?
Just being alive. I love life, and I got that from my parents. I mean, it's when you lose things that you're able to do, even simple things. After I had a motorcycle accident that got me grounded for a couple of months. When the first time I started walking again on crutches, I was amazed. Like, wow, how could I take that for granted? So I would say that's what it is. I'm just grateful of being alive because it's such an amazing journey. It's just amazing.
Perfect. What is one thing you are most curious about right now and wanting to explore and learn more about?
Well, the curiosity for me right now is entering the world of actually filmmaking. But filmmaking, I'm talking about movies. Mm-hmm. It's a new space for me. It comes with a lot of anxiety because I'm going to direct that movie. I've never directed actors before. So I'm very curious about what the process is going to be looking like. I'm excited. I've got anxiety coming along with it. Of course, all the fears. Am I going to be able to do it? I've got all these voices, but I'm curious about the process, Trevor.
Yep. Perfect. Perfect answer. Last question. What is one thing that scares you right now that you need to face with bravery?
Well, I guess what scares me the most is the fear of losing, my appetite for life, my positive approach to things in an environment that is overwhelmingly negative, which we are living today. So how to stay positive in the biggest sense of the word in an environment that is so negative and divisive. So the fear is to potentially lose that positive approach of embracing life within that environment. That would be the greatest fear.
Great answers. There's no right or wrong, and they were all perfect. So in case you didn't notice, I told you before, be grateful, be curious, be brave. I really got to get some lights that actually shine those things. I got to go get them redone. But anyways, like your answers of like just grateful for being alive, perfect answer, right? Like what else is there? It's like, if your health is gone, then what else do you got, right? So you're here. So lots to be grateful there. And then curiosity, like this is why I love what I'm doing right now. And the fact that I just said, like, we're going to revisit this interview at some point in the future too. And like, imagine that we do this interview this time next year. You're going to have that experience that you're curious about right now. You know what I mean? So like to actually come back to it and go, so what was it like, Laurent? Did you make up more in your head than was really needed? Or was it everything you thought it was going to be and it was a disaster? Like whatever it was perfect. So, and then the bravery, I think everybody listening and watching this can probably relate to it too. I think it's our greatest challenge and opportunity in the space that we're in right now is how do we navigate this world that is so disconnected and divisive and fearful and angry, and come out the other side with more love and compassion and, a better place. So, and this podcast is hopefully a piece of creating some of that too, even just starting these conversations. So just want to acknowledge you, Laurent, because we dove deep on some things that you and I have had a lot of private conversations on, and now we get to share this with the world, and we'll come back to it again. And we're going to do some really cool things here together. And I can't wait to release those into the world. And I appreciate your mentorship and friendship throughout all of this.
Thank you very much, Trevor. I appreciate it very much. It was a great conversation. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for making it happen.
Of course. Yeah, my pleasure. So how can people find out more about you? Go and check out all the platforms and everything that you got going on right now.
Well, I would say the easiest way is to go to CitrusPy, CitrusPy MG, which stands for mediagroup.com. So CitrusPyMG.com is the place to go. Bizwell is about to launch, very soon, next week, I think. So CitrusPy right now is the hub where people can find me. They can write to me on my email at Laurent, LAURENT, @CitrusPy.com.
Perfect. And I'll be sure to link all that up. And by the time this goes live, all of these things will be up and running and accessible. So, Laurent, thanks again for doing this. I look forward to our next in-person meeting at the Angry Vegan in Penticton, BC.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. Thanks. Bye, right. Trevor. Thank you so much, man. Thanks.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of The Trevor Turnbull Show. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please consider subscribing on my YouTube channel and on your favorite podcast platform, and leave me a review. I'd love to hear from you. Now, until next time, remember, today is a beautiful day of opportunity. Trust that you're exactly where you're supposed to be right now. So be grateful, be curious, and be brave.